Hi, I'm Les Wilkinson with the law firm of Wilkinson Magruder, your local Social Security disability attorneys. I'm here with my law partner, Andy Magruder, to answer some questions that y'all might have about the Social Security disability program and how people become disabled. So, Andy, we go through the records of our clients, and we also try to get the record and make it as full as complete. In addition to medical records, what other records do we try to sort of capture?
Well, that's a great question. And the great thing about representing people before the Social Security Administration is that there's no real limitation in terms of what type of evidence you can present to support a claim. And you've got to be creative in some instances in terms of getting records beyond just the typical medical records to support a claim. Oftentimes, if there's an issue of IQ that might be at play, we'll get school records. Oftentimes, we'll try to get employment records. I just had a lady come in yesterday who was missing a lot of work up until when she eventually stopped working, and we're going to be obtaining her employment records to show that she went out on FMLA leave a number of times.
FMLA?
Yeah.
What's that mean?
That means Family Medical Leave Act, okay, a federal law. And essentially what we're trying to show here is that she tried to work but she had a number of absences, and she tried to work through these issues before she eventually had to say, I can't do this anymore. Disabled parking permits are oftentimes a great source of information about a case, because in order to get a disabled parking permit, a doctor has to state on this form that the person is incapable of walking any great distance or standing any great length of time, and that can be a very powerful statement. Of course, we always try to get medical source statements from doctors, detailed forms outlining what the doctor believes a person can and cannot do in terms of standing, lifting, walking, etc. I've even in some cases gotten court records to show that my client was in fact beat up and abused by their former husband as a way of trying to show the root of her post-traumatic stress disorder claim. So there are a lot of ways that you can get records that support your client's claim that go beyond just the typical medical record.
Why would you want school records? I mean, that's if you get somebody who's 50, 60 years, that seems like a long time ago. Why would you need those?
Well, number one, you might need it to show what their educational level is. Just to say that, maybe they only went through the 8th grade or maybe the 11th grade, because that can be significant when it comes to the grid rules. But also, the educational records will have psychological testing, IQ testing, and the students' IQ scores that they were tested on when they were, say, in 6th grade will be on these records, and that can go a long way too in terms of proving a 1205 case or trying to make another case regarding the client's mental abilities.
I've also noticed when we got school records, you'll look at the grades. I mean, somebody will have all D's, maybe all F's or something like that. And that's important to show that even though their IQ may be, say, 70, which is, borderline, but not below 70, which is what we're looking for. That shows that they're really not very good in school or learning or doing various things, and therefore, they might be only able to have an unskilled type of job because they just don't have the, you might say, the mental firepower to be able to get a skilled job. So those school records are very important.
Also, Les, if someone's on long-term disability, in order to get on long-term disability, they have to have a form, again, signed by their treating physician, basically stating that they can't work. And so, what we try to do is either have the client bring in those forms from the long-term disability file or get the file ourselves so we can submit those forms that the doctor had submitted to the insurance company, submit those to Social Security. Again, another way of proving that the client can't work. So you really have to be creative in knowing what you have to prove. And Social Security allows you to submit records beyond just the medical record, so you need to take advantage of that.
Back in the dark ages when they were using paper and you'd order a doctor's records, they might be several folders within that record. One folder might be reports that they made to the long-term carrier or disability parking permit copy or something like that. when you ask for the medical records, you got the medical records and not this other record, which is just as important because you didn't specify and you didn't know about it. But in the old days, I mean, they used to have one section for, you might say, correspondence and another section for your medical records. So
a lot of different ways you can get records to help prove your client's case.
And I don't know how they're doing it on the digital format now.